Hello again, everybody. Harry Box of TheTechTrader at TheTechTrader.com. It's Tuesday night, and it's the 19th of August. Another good day on Wall Street, a real good trading day for our troops at TheTechTrader.com. It was interesting, and we did appear to complete a fifth wave of 5 waves, and we may very well be vulnerable in the next day or two. So I'm cautioning everybody to not get too carried away just yet. Everything looks good. And several of our stocks have performed very well. Let's take a look at Killian Pharmaceuticals. After breaking this wedge last week, look at the run-up. So far it's gone from just about 7 to just under 10 for about a nice 40% gain in just in the last week. But I think this stock has a lot more to go. Note the last 3 sessions have been kind of similar, but today's close was at the upper end of the range versus the past 2 days closing at the bottom end of the range. So you may very well get a probing of the 10-10-10 range where there's resistance and maybe move up to what I think is the target around 1140.50, my next target. Beyond that, you can see the stock has room to run. It could be a $14 or $15 stock. And of course, scrolling in, you'll see that the gap here, support around 906, should it pull back, would be an area where I would call support, and I would be careful about if it should break underneath that area. But I think we're going higher. Keep a look at this and take a look at the volume. Notice that during the consolidation, the volume pulled back would get very bullish. Something may be brewing there. I know there was some news after hours, and the stock did run up over 10, getting up to about twice the 1024 area. So taking a look at that as it equates to the daily chart, we did get a breakout up a little bit through that. Let's see if we can run tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on that one. ANPH also had a good day. Look at the last 4 sessions. It's been moved up from the 644 area to 756 area, and today up 40 cents or 5.6% as volume was decent, not as good as yesterday, but we broke out above the 50 and stayed above it, and also stayed above that line. A little bit of resistance perhaps at 766. On today's high 756. We can get through that. I think we're going to see 8.25. That's been my target all along, but we may also see as high as 865 coming through here. So there's your resistance zone in there and there. I'm looking for a probe of that zone over the next few days. Up next would be ANET. Now this stock acted great today. The coil narrowing here over the last week exploded today. Now a lot of volume, just under 500,000, but still up 449 or 6.37%. And most of it at the end of the day. So looking for a follow through tomorrow and maybe move up to test that $80 range. ARO, big move today as they announced the CEO, the old CEO is coming back. The stock, Wall Street liked that. I think they also had an earnings report. The stock gapped up, went to the multi-month resistance over the last, well, let's say 10 weeks, and tagged this gap here at 406. Today's high 405. So the gap, if we can get through it or get up to fill it, should get us to check the 430 area, and then beyond that, we could see ARO, if we get some good follow through, take a run at 5. That would be my short-term target. Auto Home has been doing great, and you can see after the breakout, we gave you a swing trade. The stock reached my first target and my second target, and has gone through that. My last target is about 51 3/4, 52 zone. We may get that tomorrow, but you can see how it's moved up into that zone. BDSI also a swing trade, acting great, consolidating for several weeks, and then finally making a move to break out today with a 62-cent jump or 4.6%. Mine was the best in about 6 weeks, taking me across this declining top side. What I look for now, can it take out 1444, run up to mid-channel near 16, 16.5, and eventually make it near 20, 1920 zone. Celdex, I may have jumped the gun on this today, but I still like it a lot. When I say jump the gun, it appeared to me the stock was breaking out, but there was no follow-through, and there is resistance at the neckline of the prior inverse head and shoulders range, just under 16. Today's high, 1588. The high here, 1597, and here, 1616. So there's going to be resistance in this zone, but if it should get through, and I think it's going to, I'm looking for Celdex to make a quick move towards 18, 18.25, eventually 21 and 24 potential targets. I think this has formed a big base pattern in here that could, call for higher levels. The short-term support on Celdex would be, in my opinion, around 14.5. CSIQ, another follow-through day. Ever since the earnings report blew Wall Street out, you can see it's been up for 5 days in a row. but the last couple of days have moved across a resistance zone, and we may very well be testing the March highs up on the pullback high here, up around 36.64. So if we do that, you're going to see an extension that takes us even up to 44.45, the old highs. But we may very well get some consolidation in this zone. Still looking very good. Big day for Depomet, up $1.78 on a quarter rolling, I believe it was. 13.5%, 6.4 million, one of the top 3 volumes of the year. And the spike takes it up to test the March highs up around the 15.25 range. Today's high, 15.11. So it has some work to do to break out and make further progress with a long-term target up in the 24.5 range. But near term, I could see the stock getting to 17 or 18 if it takes this out. Let's look for a follow-through and see if we can take out the 15 range tomorrow. ENPH, and I showed you that yesterday, and notice that it did follow through a bit today. 24 cents or about 2% at 700,000. Not the best follow through, not the best volume. Nevertheless, we moved up through the mid channel line, and at this point, we may very well start to see 17, 18 range if it gets any kind of real volume and accelerates. GoPro acting much better, 5 days in a row up. Today up $1.51 or 3.6% on 4.1 million. Not the biggest volume we've seen in the stock, and there is resistance ahead here at about 44.75, which is my target. Let's see if we can test that tomorrow. Secondary target would be up near 49.50 zone, and we'll be glad to see that occur should it get there. For now, though, that's your target. Big breakout today on Home Depot. This is a more than 1 year base, trading range, breakaway gap, a good close up 464, 5.5%, 18.2 million, biggest volume all year. To me, it says higher levels are due, and we may very well see the stock move up towards the 95 to 100 range. Big move from this Chinese real estate company, HGSH, China Holdings Real Estate. After popping a week and a half ago, it then did a 6-day consolidation flag, holding the moving averages as they turned over. You know, my first rule of trading is on a long-term basis, especially when you see stocks spike up across the moving averages, pull back to where the moving averages are crossing over and do it on low volume, we often see a spike up. Well, today was the prime example of that. From 375 to 684, yes, it pulled back a chunk, $1.80, $1.50, but still was up 184 or 53% after being up nearly 100%. And where did that high come? That today's high get to 684? Not that far from the 660 range here and the 720 range there. So if we do get a follow through on it, I would look to see resistance around 7.25. If it does make another move, but this may very well go into another consolidation. IDTI, I'm showing you this because not only does it have a nice long-term channel, a beauty, but the current action today took it out above this double top and may very well extend towards 17 short term or even accelerate towards 18 or 19. IMPV Imperva. After flagging for about a week and a half, following this breakaway gap and a little run up, here, it flagged. Today it broke out of the flag with a pop of 228 or 8.25% on about almost 800,000 shares, the biggest volume in a couple of weeks. Looks to me like it's going to test a gap, which is a big one, up near $32. So we got a couple more points to go before we get there, and that will be my short-term target for Imperva if the follow-through does occur. And it looks like today's action was the beginning of a new shift in momentum for this stock. Now, for a move from here at 22, call it, to here at 28 and a half, 6.5 points added on to this area gets you about 33, and that would be my target up around that zone. Intermune acting very well in here after popping through the double top last week and stalling for 2 days. The last couple of days this week, with a move up yesterday and another small move of $1.22 or 2.3%, looks to me like it wants to make higher levels. If you can get through that zone, we should see a run at the 60, maybe $63 range. JCPenney. Well, an important day today as it popped on 49 million shares and closed up 38 cents, 3.85%. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, and it isn't, but technically, moving across the 10, 20, 30 zone where this double top was important today. Although it didn't close great, it still was up nicely towards the upper end of the range on big volume. At this point, I'm looking for a follow-through and a test maybe up in the short-term range around 11, 11 and a quarter, and possibly up to 12, 12 and a quarter. And JRJC was a monster of the midway yesterday. Today, it spiked up in the morning, got up to 965. It did back off to all the way back down to 8 range, closed at 809, up only 27 cents. 32 million shares, 30.2.8 million shares. Huge volume considering there's only 28 million outstanding. So, and there is resistance there, so we may see some backing and filling, but any follow through could get us to 14. Keep an eye on it. NBLY, well, best looked at on a 15-minute chart because it's an IPO. After the IPO and the first pop the next day, it came down, as you can see, pulling back from 41.50 all the way back down to 31.84, about 10 points. Based out for a week and a half. Broke out, formed a little wedge, and ran up this morning. Very nice action on it. It looks to me like if it can get through this zone right here, that this stock could very well take a run at retesting the 40, 41 and a half zone. That's my target short term. Now, MNDL, I've been talking about Mandalay Digital as they've had a recent brand new major deal, which was a game changer for them. You can see the stock exploded from the 3, 10, 15 zone all the way up to 512. Big move in just a week. Now, there is a resistance zone up here. Let's look at it weekly. You'll see they're going back multiple year resistance. Yes, there's this one spike that took it up to 6, and that would be a possible target. But if it blows through that, we can see the stock at 9. I'm not saying that's the case, but we do have that possibility based on the thrust and the strong volume that's got it as well. Love to see a pullback consolidation, retest in that zone before it goes, if it goes. Nevertheless, promising pattern. SWIR, which is Sierra Wireless, broke out a week and a half ago, has been moving up steadily, reversed 3 days ago and spiked up today. Moving through a triple top range today, that was a very important move technically for it. At this point, it's testing the 26, 6.5, 3/4 range from beginning of January beginning of this year in January. So let's see if we can test that 26, 6.5 zone. Eventually, longer term target, I have low to mid 30s. Taser with the police surveillance and protection equipment industry having a boost with the riots in Ferguson. This stock ran. And they also had some positive news about new contracts recently. You can see it's been up 5 days in a row, taking it from 12 to 16. Now, love to see, after breaking out, this is a key breakout here, to the highest level since May, I think we can make a run towards 18.5, 19. That's my short-term target, but I'm looking to see if we get a pullback first. Another recent new issue, TrueCar, I like the way it popped, pulled back, and then consolidated, now breaking out again. I'm targeting 21. And TSL, one of the better acting junior solars, today ran up through, first of all, yesterday broke out across that line. Today moved up to test that line and closed right there at the top. We get a little bit of a follow through. My target would be 1440 for TSL, maybe as high as 14 3/4. But there's your resistance zone and target on TSL. And the last thing tonight is VDSI, a recent swing trade of ours that's been acting great. And after the explosive move and the coil, it broke out. And it pulled back in a three-wave corrective move, but did not break support or the trend line. The nice run we've had since beginning of July, from 1072 to over 15 today, continues with another 2% gain, or 29 cents today, to a new high. I think it's got the energy to make it all the way up towards the 1920 zone. That's my secondary target. First target 17. And that's it tonight on the long side. This is HB signing off. I'll talk to you tomorrow in the trading room. Bye-bye.